of you out tonight as we hear a lecture by the internationally noted author and lecturer, Mr. El-Amin, why they should accept Al-Islamic. We push that hard because we find that a lot of our Masonic lodges, we can see that knowledge coming down to the masses of the people, where the knowledge is, they free up some of this knowledge so they would get information. They would tell us a little bit about why he chose those particular topics. A member of what was known, what is still known as some of the Nation of Islam. He, like many others, evolved out of the Nation of Islam and came into the universal concept of Islam as followed by over 1 billion Muslims around the world. And the direction and the influence of the man, W.D. Muhammad, the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and embraced the universal teachings of Al-Islam. And the sunnah, or the practice of the way of our Prophet Muhammad, Ibn Abdullah, may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. But Mustafa devoted most of his life to research and study and work.
Merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, I bear witness there's but one God, creator, who we call Allah, and I bear witness to Prophet Muhammad, his servant and his messenger. To Imam Adam Diab, here of Fayetteville, North Carolina, to our friends, guests, the visiting imams, to all of you, our honorable, noble brothers and sisters, I'd like to greet you in the greetings of peace of Assalamu alaikum. And that is, for those who don't know, simply means peace be unto you. It is a pleasure and an honor to me to once again be here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. When I left New Jersey, it was thunderstorm, hurricane watch, very cloudy and very gloomy. I wore a sweater and a jacket, wore an umbrella. But as the plane entered into the area of North Carolina, I saw this bright rays, bright sun, and it was saying to be 77 degrees out here. Quite a contrast. The air even felt much lighter. I felt like I could breathe a lot better. There's just something about the South. You know, we all came by way of South. Those of us that's up in the North for a long time, we came by way of South with the help of great leaders, great women like Harriet Tubman and others, and the natural migration that occurred. The subject that has been selected for me to speak on, Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and Islamic Destiny, is a broad subject, a very wide subject. And I haven't spoken on that subject in, I guess, in about a year, a little more than a year. And the last time I spoke, it was in North Carolina, Fayetteville. So I want to let you know that. So I make it off, get started a little slow. Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny. Many have asked, what is Freemasonry? Why should any attention be paid to Freemasonry? Well, there's several reasons. 4 main reasons that I can think of is that, one, the founding fathers of this land, many of those original leaders of the colonies, were Masons. Many of our African American leaders nowadays are members of the Masonic Order. The Masonic Order, in some respects, trace its origin back to our motherland, Africa, the building of the Great Pyramid. Some trace it back to Jerusalem, the building of Solomon's Temple, but others trace it back to ancient Egypt. And from another reason is that, and the later degrees of Freemasonry, as they go up into the higher degrees, they make some kind of connection with the Islamic religion. They become what are called Shriners. And as Shriners, they say they're traveling to the shrine of Islam, which is the Kaaba in Mecca. And they dress in the garb of certain Islamic countries with the feathers. They greet Assalamu alaikum, and they use our holy book. And they get a certain perspective on Islam. So I think those are four basic good reasons why we should have some concern about Freemasonry and what it is. Before I go into what Freemasonry is, let me just say, for the sake of our audience, those that are not Muslims, to remind you that Muslims are not inherently terrorists, inherently diametrically opposed to Christians or Jews, or violent-prone people. In fact, the word Islam itself comes from a word I have up here called Salam, which actually means peace, security, to preserve. So the word Muslim, as you see, S-L-A-M in Arabic, that would be the Sin, the Lam, and the Mim, the three letters. Or the S, the L, and the M. Wherever you see that, that's the root. All the words coming from that is associated with that root. So Muslim, in its essence, actually means peace, security, protection. A person you're at peace with, and a person that seeks to establish the peace. And that's what Islam means too, it's from the same root. And if you notice, Muslims say, As-salam alaikum, that's peace be unto you. It comes from the same root. So, despite all of the things that's going on in the world events, the politics, and all the other things, that in its essence, Islam is about peace. And we are obligated to respect people of other faiths and other religions. Freemasonry. What is Freemasonry? First of all, there are two kinds of masonry. There's what is called the operative masonry and the speculative masonry. Operative masonry is the physical masons that we see that build buildings like this, that are involved in building physical structures. It's called operative because it operates in the society. Those who work with the physical mallet, the physical chisel, the physical bricks, that's an operative masonry. Speculative masonry is what we would call spiritual masonry. Spiritual masonry. What this particular ideology or philosophy or organization has done is it has taken the working tools, the instruments, etc. of the physical mason and given it spiritual and philosophical meaning. For example, the level is generally used by the operative or physical mason to make sure that the horizontal is balanced, to prove a horizontal line. And those who use to shoot pool, we put the level on the pool tip to make sure that it's balanced, equally horizontal. So the operative mason uses that when he's building a house or building to make sure that horizontal base is level. So for the speculative mason, that same instrument that is used to establish, to prove a level of the horizontal, it is a symbol of equality, to make sure that things are on an equal level. Also, for another example, the plumb line. When you're going to build, you start in perhaps the northeast corner, and you have to make sure that the perpendicular line, which runs this way, is at least at a 90-degree angle to the horizontal line, which runs this way. But to prove that line, to make sure that this line is straight accurately, you use what is called a plumb. The instrument, the physical build, the opposite, to make sure that this is straight. Okay? But in what is called speculative masonry, or the spiritual masonry, that plumb horizontal line may be interpreted as being upright face resting to the floor. So that's an idea of operative masonry and speculative masonry. Now, speculative masonry is generally called Freemasonry. What is Freemasonry? Many of the authors, historians, scholars in the subject of Freemasonry themselves are actually, within, to a certain extent, trying to give a definition of masonry, although there are several meanings. One of the most popular meanings is a system of morality, veiled in allegories and symbols. In other words, they attempt to teach moral teachings, but they veil it in different symbols and in different stories and allegories. One of the important meanings of masonry is it is called Freemasonry. And the word free means without restriction, without hindrance. And a mason is one who builds. So it means that it is a person that is free to build their personal life, their social life, their community life, to build themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. And you know, African Americans were not allowed to be masons because it was said that a slave could not be a mason. That only a free man could be a mason. But only a man that was free to develop his mind, to develop his society, to develop his family, to develop himself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Only that person is indeed a free man or a free builder. Now, we have had many obstacles in our life. We have not been free to really develop our minds, especially during slavery. We're not allowed to read, to develop our minds. So one of the meanings of Freemasonry is one who is free to build himself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now, most of us, I'm sure, are familiar with the Masonic symbol. Here, the compass in the square with the G in the middle. That is the emblem that most of us have seen, I'm sure, correct? Well, the G in the middle has several meanings. One of the meanings is geometry. To know how to work with angles and squares, triangles, etc. So one of the meanings is geometry. The other meaning is God. G-O-D. But it's a play on, I believe in Hebrew, Goma Az-Dar, which means beauty, strength, and wisdom. The other meaning of the G is God, the grand architect of the universe. And another very, very important meaning, brothers and sisters, for the G is growth, development, growth and development. That the human being grows and develops stage by stage through different levels of development. And in our holy book of Quran, we are told that God reminds us that He created us weak. And it really represents the material and the spiritual. It's important that we have the material and spiritual balance. Religion and the secular achievements, if you will. Now, how do we arrive at that? A compass is used to draw circles, correct? We use a compass to draw circles. And all things that are circular are capable of movement. It represents the spiritual side of life. All things that are circular are capable of movement. A wheel that circles, it rolls. A ball that circles, it rolls. Our heads are circular, and there should be some activity in our heads. There should be some movement in our heads. And when you look to the sky, most of the heavenly objects are circular. They are capable of movement. And they say at Jesus' grave, there was a round stone placed in front of the grave. But it was able to be moved because it was round. Not just Islam teaches that, but that's what Christianity teaches. So it was able to be rolled away. So the compass really is a symbol, an instrument symbolizing the circle, or the spiritual life, and the square. You have what is called the simple square and the perfect square. Now, the simple square is like this. Looks like an L. This is a simple square and 90 degrees in here. They meet at 90 degrees. Now, a simple square, again, helps us to make what is called the perfect square. You see, the square is four. Square here, square there, square there, square there. So four of those bring us to 360 degrees, 90 degrees each. But anyway, when you see the Masonic symbol, you see the compass and the square. But you see the simple square, which really alludes to the perfect square. Because you need it for the perfect square. Now, what is the square? How do we prove that the square represents material life? That's what they're talking about balance. How do we prove that? All things, or many things that are bound to the earth are square. The animals that don't fly but walk on the earth walk on fours. That's the square, 1, 2, 3, 4. The chairs that we sit in are fours. The foundations of the buildings are fours. When we start out as youngsters, we fall on fours. So the square represents the material work, or the material life. And as human beings, we all know that we need to advance materially, right? We need to achieve things materially. But we should also have a spiritual conscience. In fact, during our suffering in slavery, it was our spiritual discipline that pulled us through, brothers and sisters. It was our belief in the God, the unseen power that pulled us through. So we need that balance. So the compass and the square represent a union of the material and the spiritual. As further evidence that this is material, that the fourth is on the earth, is that in our holy book it says that God made man, made Adam, and then he told him to get out of heaven, into the earth. He cast him out, and he cast Satan out. And when he cast him out, Satan told God, to make it quick, that he was going to come before the man, from before him, in front of him, from behind him, from his left, from his right. Not upstairs, but on the earth, and he was cast out. And in the Bible, in the book of Job, we know that Satan was walking on earth, up and down, to and fro. So the square, again, emphasizes the point. The compass and the square represent the material and the spiritual. So when you see that symbol, you have some idea of what that's about. Making we attempt to bring its members into the light, stage by stage, step by step, from 33 degrees, to help them to grow. This is what it teaches. Now, how does one become a Mason? And I'm talking to Masonry first, because that's the topic. Freemasonry, ancient Egypt, and the Islamic text. I thought I was talking about Islam first. But I'm going to go by the topic. How does one become a Mason? Basically, through recommendation. You have to be vouched for. Recommendation and initiation. Once a person is recommended and if they are accepted based on that recommendation, then they come into the lodge and they go through a series of initiations. So through the use of initiation, symbols, and explanations, they are brought into the Masonic lodge. And it has 33 degrees, but the most important degree, the early degree, the foundation is three. It's called inter-apprentice, fellowcraft, and masturbation. Physical, mental, and spiritual. And you know they said Jesus rose on the third day. So it really represents that development from physical, mental, and spiritual. And some of the names that they are known by is sons of light, travelers, and we can relate to that as travelers. They are told to travel from west to east in search of light. They believe that man should travel from west to east in search of light. Now, and in the Islamic religion, we are told to travel as far as China in search of knowledge, to seek wisdom from cradle to cradle, to travel and see what was the fate of those who came before. To move about, for traveling expands your mind. They are called builders, as we mentioned earlier, to build, to construct your life. And in the high degrees or the shrine degree, they are called nobles of the mystic shrine. Now, if we can just take a minute and reflect on this statement that is often said by Masons. The question is generally asked, which way are you traveling? And the answer is generally from west to east in search of life. And sometimes it is added in search of that which is lost. Now we are in the Western Hemisphere. We as a people were taken from the east. Africa is east of North America. We were taken from Africa, the African continent, and made slaves in the West. There's a story in Masonry about a master builder who was also taken to the West. But why do they say they travel from west to east in search of light? What's in the east? If the people of Africa and of the east, the Near East, were savages, now mind you, a great percentage of our president, Congress, founding fathers were Masons. Those who established this land, many of them were Masons. Many slave owners were Masons. Many who advanced the philosophy and the ideal that Africa was a land of savages, and that the people of Africa were created by God to forever be hewers of wood and totals of water for Europeans. Many of them were Masons. Those who said that we were cursed by God, black, and that we offered nothing to the civilization of man in the world, and that we were in fact a burden on the world. Many of them say that they traveled from west to east in search of life. Now what do you find there in the east? What do you find in Africa? What do you find in Asia, so far east? Well, let's look for a minute and see. You know, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. In ancient times, those who worship the sun, they look daily for the rising of the sun to bring them the light and the warmth. So they look there for the rising of the sun in hopes of a brighter day. So that's on a physical level, looking east. But what does it mean spiritually? If you happen to have a dollar bill on you, you take it out, not from no collection fee. But if you have a dollar bill, maybe we can reinforce our point. If I happen to share something of interest with you. Okay? Not a $5 bill, not a $10 bill. You're gonna pull out that $100 bill. Another $1,000 bill. Only a $1 bill. Now, brothers and sisters, this is important. This is important information. You see the shape of this dollar bill? This is what we know as rectangular or something called oblong. All lodges are set up like this, oblong, rectangle. And they have two circles, very important circles, two columns. But the Islamic prayer rug, the prayer rug the Muslims use, I haven't seen a perfectly square one. They're rectangular. Okay? On the back, now mind you, let's keep in mind, traveling from west to east in search of light. Now on the back, you see a pyramid, right? The pyramid is from Africa, northeast Africa, Egypt, okay? Now, no African Americans put this dollar bill together. No black people, African Americans, put this pyramid on it. It's something from Africa on it. Okay? We had nothing to do with it. Before I go into some details, just notice that there's a bird, an eagle there, and there's a pyramid there, right? That the bird is an eagle, some say. And I have to believe that's what it is. And a bird is not grounded on the earth, is it? A bird flies in the sky, particularly an eagle. He flies with great force and speed, and he has great vision. Some say he can look at the sun. But this eagle, this bird, represents the spiritual development again. Because it's not bound to the earth. He can fly in the sky. He has wings. But then on the other side, you see a physical structure. A stone, heavyweight stone. The pyramid, big, huge stone. When I went to Egypt a couple of years ago, I didn't realize how big these stones were. It's like this big. That's why. Move these heavy things. So, on one side, we see not rock, but heavy stone structure, which is solid on the earth. It's been there for thousands of years. So that represents materialism, right? Material structure, the earth. So on one side is spiritual vision in the eagle, right? And the pyramid has an eye over it, correct? So that tells us material vision. So here the dollar is showing us material and spiritual vision. And in the Muslim prayer, on our prayer book, some of you have seen the movies, they talk about the flying carpet. What is that? Send back with there's flying carpet. It's called a flying carpet because the prayer is spiritual, right? We spiritually ascend in the prayer. But it's a physical thing that we go to. We go to physical position. But its focus is spiritual. Although there are physical activities involved. And in our holy book, there was advice given to a wealthy man. And the advice was, seek with everything that God has given you. The afterlife, the spiritual. But don't forget your share in the material life. So once again, this dollar is the material and spiritual balance. Now let's see if we can get a little more specific here. Let us look at this eagle over here, okay? Now, the Masons say they travel from west to east in search of light. Which way is that eagle looking on it? He's looking towards the pyramid, not away from the pyramid. He's looking towards the pyramid, which we have established and we know is in the east. It's in Africa. So it's looking in towards the east. Over the eagle's head, we see 13 stars, right? If you count, there's 13 stars. The word that's in his mouth is pluribus unum, many from one, or many of one, has 13 letters. The shield consists of 13 stripes. The arrow in its claws are 13. And the leaf or berries are 13. And the feathers are 9. So this eagle represents America. The symbol of America is the bald eagle, correct? And the 13 represents the original 13 colonies. So this eagle on this American dollar bill speaks to the history and the structure of America. Why do you say the structure? The system of America. Because the upper part, the head, if you look at it, that represents the office of the president, the executive branch. Well, how do you say that? Because the words are coming out of the mouth, and the president speaks for the country. Then when you come down to the shield, you see the two wings, correct? That represents the legislative branch. The president is the executive branch, the legislative branch, or the Congress. The legislative branch is the Congress. And what do we have? Two houses, right? Two wings, two houses. The House of Representatives and the Senate. Then when you come on down to the feathers, there's 9 feathers. And that represents the judicial branch with the 9 judges on the Supreme Court. So it speaks to the structure of the system. But they do need to make a modification. And if you have a black pencil or marker, you can color one of the feathers a little dark like black. Because we have another Clarence Thomas there, and he's a dark black man. So let's go back to Prince. I know it's telling the face one of them little dark. So if you can agree with me that this represents America. Equal is the symbol of America. We have the system. We have the history. Now, that means that America, the history, the system is look east, historical, to set up America. Now, when we look over at the pyramid, under the pyramid, you see under the base of it. Napa is new. Order was order, secular, right? New order is a sign, new world order. When the Europeans came to America, they thought it was the new world. That's what they called it, right? The new destiny, the new Jerusalem, the new world, America. And when you look at the pyramid really has a base of 4. It has 4 right angles, 4 triangles, right angles, 93 angles, the foundation. It's 4. And in ancient Egypt, the wise of ancient Egypt, they identified these 4 as the 4 basic elements of the universe. Fire, water, air, and earth. And that's what they identified the 4 as. And the 4 directions. But if you look at it, it forms a triangle. That's what they're marveling about the pyramid. How are they able to lay a foundation of 360 degrees, perfect right angle at the base, but then bring it up to a triangle? How do you have a square and a triangle? That's what they've been marveled about and wondering about, in addition to how they were physically do it. So when you see the 3, you see the 4, then you see it comes up on 3. The 3 alludes again to the physical, mental, and spiritual. The growth of man. Now, what is the eye? We see an eye up there. Some have said that this is the all-seeing eye of God. But if you notice that eye is in a capstone, it's in a triangle itself, right? It's inside of a capstone, right? Everyone sees that, right? So that can't be the all-seeing eye of God, because God is infinite. The infinite and the absolute cannot be contained in the finite. God's vision cannot be put in anything. No text or nothing. So it's not the eye of God. It means it represents man's growth to a vision. That we move from forward, and we stand up, and we move up. And if you notice, the eye is lit. It has light around on this pyramid. It has rays coming out. That man grows and reaches for knowledge, for wisdom. That his eye, his third eye, should be lit with knowledge and wisdom. So this represents the growth and the movement and the development of man. How we should grow and develop, what we should teach our children to teach. So we want them to grow up and have knowledge and wisdom, so their minds will be lit with knowledge and wisdom. So that's what that is. It comes from the base and it comes on up, and the three are physical, mental, and spiritual. But let's go a little more. Now we say that the eye here represents vision. Man's growth towards vision. Why is it at the top? Not at the side, not at the bottom. Because the higher up you go on a building, in ancient Egypt, they had a belief in a god, and they say that Isis was represented, symbolized by the sun and by an eye. That he was symbolized by the sun and by an eye. And his sister wife Isis was symbolized by the moon. Okay? And it say Isis wore 7 veils. Because the moon waxes and wanes through 7 stages that we can see. It's 8, but the new moon we can't see with our eyes. But it waxes and wanes from a half moon, a full moon, a half moon, a crescent. Then it reverses to the half moon, the crescent, full moon, etc. But it goes through 7 stages. And that's why in the mythology, the Isis wore 7 veils. But Egypt, the thing about Egypt, according to certain riddles of Egypt, because we were trying to show the point with America and Egypt, okay? Egypt, there was a mythology that you couldn't enter Egypt unless you broke a riddle. Unless you broke a particular riddle. And one of the riddles was called the riddle of the Sphinx. Okay? The Sphinx, which was the head of a man and the body of a lion. Some type of animal. And the riddle was something like this. What creature walked on 4? Then on 2, and then on 3. And if you could answer, you was consumed by the Sphinx. But the answer to the riddle was man. Man, know yourself. Man. How was it man? Because when we start out as a child, we crawl on 4, correct? And then when we get strong, young man, strong back, etc., homo erectus, we walk on 2. And when we get in old age, our backs are a little weak, and we walk with a staff or rock as a 3rd leg, 4th. So the answer to the riddle is man. But it spoke to man's development, his growth and his development. See, in ancient Egypt, that was a great science, the science of psychology, the science of the development of man. So if you broke the riddle of the Sphinx, then you could enter Egypt. And that 4, as we said, represented the 4 elements of the universe. The 2 represented the material and the spiritual. And the 3 meant that you had evolved to your 3rd level, physical, mental, and spiritual. And that staff represents your staff of knowledge. my experience, you should know that way. We see fighters in the ring. They win certain fights because of their ring experience. Now they might lose because they don't have the endurance and the stamina of the young person. But they know how to use the ring from their ring experience. So that third leg, that cane, that staff, represents that knowledge, that experience. Now, we got the 4, what we can walk on 4, 2, and 3. Now, let's see America. Now, again, we want to try to tend to as many things as we can. You know, in Masonry, they have what is called the 4 points of entrance, with building. There are several things that will go with it, but what comes to my mind is what is called temperance, control, temperance. Fortitude, which is courage and strength. Prudence, which is the ability to govern, rule, control oneself by the use of reason. And justice, fair everyone with enough. They also have several things, but 2 things that come to mind is 2 columns that they say was at the fourth of Solomon's temple, called Boaz and Yakin. And they say you had to enter through these columns to go into the temple. And one was on the right and one was on the left. And on these columns was circles. And one had pictures of the celestial, the heavenly body. Another one has pictures of the terrestrial, the earthly things. So that's your 4 and your 2. And then they have what's important, 3 degrees, masturbation. Into the printer, fellow craft, masturbation. They say that the master builder called Harmsville, we just moving quick through these things, was hit 3 times. It was hit 3 times. And the chest was thrown in the head, and then buried in the west. By 3 men, 3 Jews, they say, J, and J. I might have been James, Jones, and Jimmy. Is that what I say? Don't call me John, don't call me Jimmy. Well, J, and J. Jubilee, below, and below. That's in their order. So the 3 is important, and they say that Jesus rose on the 3rd day. They say they hit Jesus in 3 spots also. They gave him a crown of thorns on his head. They pierced him in the side, and when he was on the cross, he searched, and they gave him venom. So we know how important 3 is. They believe in God, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And in our Islam, Prophet Muhammad, may his prayers and the peace be upon him, it's reported that Jibril came to him and gripped him 3 times. The first time he gripped him, he said, read. He said, I can't read. He gripped him again, he said, read. He said, I can't read. He gripped him again, he said, read in the name of your Lord who created. And he began to read. So we know how important the 3s are. You have local, state, and federal government. We spoke of the 3 branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. Okay, so we have the 4, the 2, and the 3. Let's move on. Now, America looked at ancient Egypt and Africa. They didn't just look at and take us from there. That was the labor. That was the labor force to build this bad boy up. But they needed a philosophy and ideal too. They needed a model of success. Egypt was successful materially. It was the most advanced society of its time. So we say 4, 2, and 3. Let's look at it. When the Europeans left Europe, many of them fled from Europe, and when they set up their government here in America, many of them fled here seeking for freedom, and they established 4 freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from war. And there's one more. Freedom from fear. Yes. And you know, nothing fear but fear itself. So, at the foundation, there was 4 major reasons. Freedom, 4 major freedoms. And they also told us that the way you make it in is to get a good college education, right? 4-year college education. Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So we have the 4. That was the 4. And then we had the 2. What was the 2? They said, never again will the church dominate the state. Because in Europe, the church dominated the state. It dominated the people's lives to such an extent that if a person lived back, they were considered a witch or a warlock or something. If the church didn't approve the knowledge, the people couldn't have the knowledge. So when they came to America, they said, we want these freedoms. So they established separation of church and state. You need to know something about the state, the government, the society, and something about the religious order. That's your 2. And the 3 was what? The established various branches of government. The checks and the balance, which we spoke of, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Now, when we think about the riddle of the faith and the things we just talked about, we talked about the 4, we said 2, and we said the 3. Now, actually, and the symbolism, what this actually points to is 9. 9. And we spoke of the 9 judges. We spoke of the 9 judges. If you will see that the 4, 2, and the 3 actually bring us to 9, correct? If you add those up. Partly, but we generally record these things for historic reasons, and I guess anyone wants the information out in here. We can only cover so much in this 30 period of time. Okay, now, we say the riddle of the faith that we spoke of 4, 2, and 3. That brings us to 9. And the reason I say it brings us to 9 is because 9 is really a mystical number. It's very important, even in our life. You know, in Islam, in the Quran, it says that God made angels with wings 2, 3, and 4. We have certain positions of prayer that we go to called rak'ah. And the independent numbers are 2 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and then there's 3 for Maghrib. Now there's 5 for Maghrib, and the 4 occurs more than one time. But the independent numbers themselves is 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Now, when you think about 9, why 9 is so important when it adds up. You know, we are born after 9 months in our mother's absence. The holiest month of the Islamic calendar is the 9th month, or Ramadan. Moses received 9 signs. In Warlock Masonry, they are taught that they go under 9 archways. And one of the catechisms is 3 by 3 under and over, or 3 times 3, which is 9. And you know, Masonry they have the 33 degrees, which is really a play on 9. 3 times 3. 4 is 33 in a triangle, which still brings us to 9. So we have a 3 of 3 and the 3 lines of the triangle. But there's something else even more important about it. Now, when all that ties up, they say Jesus gave up the ghost in the 9th hour. When you look at 360 degrees, it actually brings us back to 9. If you add the cross, 360 equals 9. Now, why 9 is a mysterious number? It's because anything times 9 can bring you back to 9. Anything times 9 can bring you back to 9. In other words, 9 times 1 equals 9, right? 9 times 2 equals 18, right? 1 and 8 equals 9, right? 9 times 3 equals 27. 2 and 7 equals 9. Time is putting it together, right? We were just blessed, if you want to call it that, to come across these things. And when we get things and we have the proper form, and we can share with one another. 9 times 4 equals 36. 3 and 6 is 9. Correct? Y'all just know this is correct. 9 times 5. I know how to cheat though. Y'all just but I kind of like those. But I'm going to jump. 9, that's why just be 10. 9 times 11 equals 99, right? 99. 9 and 9, 9 plus 9 is 18, right? 180. So anything times 9 can bring you back. 9 times 7, right? 63. 6 and 3 is 9. Okay? So 9 is always been known to be a mysterious number. A mysterious number. For that reason and other reasons, it consists of 3 levels of 9 also. 3 stages of 3 on some part. 3 levels of 3. So all of that, man, know yourself, 4, 2, and 3, really leads us to 9. It really leads us to 9. And the reason it leads you to the 9 is because it brings us to, if you, I forget what terminology you use it, but 4 and the 5. It really consists of the 4 and the 5. That's the point I'm really trying to say. But you know the 4 is the material. And what about 5? We have 5 senses. 5 equals a circle. If you extend your hand this way, like this, over your legs, you have 5 points. That would be a circle. Your head to your arms, to your foot, to your feet, and you go all around, that's a circle. It would actually be like this. It was really, well, 5 points. We're trying to go like this here. The 2 legs. We extended it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we went around, and in the Semitic language, the Arabic in particular, the number 5 is a circle. So 4 and 5 again, all of this equals to balance, material spiritual balance. And we can bring any message. Let us try to have material and spiritual balance. Let us not have balance. Let us not be too spiritual. Let us not just tell them that you can have the whole world, just give me somebody else. Let us not be too materialistic when you say, hey man, I'll deal with that hereafter stuff later. And I understand people saying that because when we were born into slavery and shortly thereafter, I heard a brother tell me, he said, well, the Europeans, he had us thinking on the after state while he got the real estate. So, I understand those ones that broke up, say, oh man, I ain't never the after state. I want this now. But we have to balance it out. We have to balance it out. You know, because we have two eyes, right? But one vision comes together. We have two ears, but we hear one sound. We have two nostrils, but we smell one thing. We have two legs, but they support one body. We have two arms, but they work together for one body. We have a speak of Solomon's temple, but the temple was right here. They say there were two columns, Boaz and Yaqin, right here. And we have two ears, and we have a conscious and a subconscious. But if you reflect on some of the things we said, you will see that the eagle with this great vision represents the spiritual. I'm going back to the pyramid with the iris and the material, right? And we spoke of two eyes, one vision. The only money you will find on is the $1 bill. Not the $2 bill, or the $5 bill, or the $20 bill. Why? Because it lets you know that your spiritual and your material eye and vision should be one. Not eye, not this, not $1,000, but it's only on the $1 bill. Because the material and the spiritual should work together as one. As one. Our concerns should be as one. You know, in Christianity, they tell us in the Bible that Jesus took some of his disciples up to a mountain. And he showed them two lights. One of Moses and one of Elijah. And we know Moses was a builder and a lawyer. And they say Elijah was ascended to heaven. Okay? And it said these two lights came together to form one. The transfiguration is called. We make a few points and then we'll wrap it up. In Masonry, as they come on up to the degree, as a shrine, which is what to be a shrine, you have to leave to the 32nd degree Mason for 9th temple. They say that they are crossing the burning sands. The sands of Arabia at this point. In the early degree, they are referred to the hot sands of the African continent conquest. This is the house. And they're trying to cross those sands symbolically to get to the pyramid, to get to those sands, to get to wherever they're going. But they say they're crossing the sands to worship at the shrine of Islam. This is what the shrine says. But the question is, what is sand? What does sand represent? You know, it's hard to get footed on the sand. Instability, insecurity. And hot sand is even rougher. It's your hot passion. That we cannot, as a people, get our footed in passion. You can't build nothing just on passion. You can't go after business ventures, educational ventures, strictly on passion. You can't build nothing on passion. Even your romantic affairs, there must be more to it than just the passion. You get past the passion and you lock into some solid things. Either some business investments, some children, a house, etc. You say, baby, you got to move a little past this. You say, baby, I can get that anywhere, you know? You start talking like that. That's how the youngsters be talking. I'm a teacher, I hear them, you know? They talking that stuff to them young, other youngsters. Like, oh, I can get that anywhere, you know? I ain't gonna say what they really be saying. So you can't really build on the hot passion. You can't get stability, that's the message. That crossing the sands meaning getting past the passion, getting past the instability. And where are they on to the shrine of Islam. What is the shrine of Islam? The Kaaba, which is a physical, solid brick building. So you're moving from instability to stability. You're moving from the rough aspect to the perfect aspect. We move from a crude state as a people to sophistication. We move from darkness into light. So crossing the sand means that you are trying to move from insecurity and instability to a solid foundation. And I always try to tie these to our people, to us, that we should be trying to make ourselves solid in the economy of America, solid in the political arena of America, solid in all of the aspects that is good for our life. And what is the Kaaba? The Kaaba is a square, cube-shaped building, four sides, four corners. And when you get there, what do? What are you going to do when you get across the sand, brother? How are you going to worship at the shrine of Islam? Well, when you get there, you make circles around the square. What is called tawaf. You make 7 circuits. And you also go to what is called Sa'i. You run 7 times back and forth through the hill, Safa Marwa. And we just talked about Egypt and Isis, the 7 Baals. Well, when you go through run between the 2 hills on high, that's in commemoration of Hagar, the wife of Abraham, who ran 7 times on the desert searching for water. But she was from Egypt, they tell us, right? So that tells us why she ran 7 times. Because she was trying to unlock the mysteries of the desert with 7. And we know 7 represents completion, right? 7 days in a week. They talk about the book of 7 seals. In our religion, we're told that there are 7 heavens and 7 days to heaven. The Quran tells us that God revealed the Quran in the 7 oft repeated verses. So we know that 7 means completion. So when you cross the burning sand, to get to the shrine of Islam, you go 7 times around the Kaaba, around the square. And to help those of you who may not know, the Kaaba, we know the Kaaba and the Bible term from Egypt also, but Kaaba really means joint and connection. That's the meaning, joint and connection. And the Kaaba is called Beit. It's called a house. And it's called a mosque. It's called a house. And what does the house suggest? It suggests home life. And home life suggests family. And a family is no less than a connection of individuals based on love. So they say that they cross in the burning sand to get to the shrine of Islam. And it says, did you walk or did you ride? And they say they rode a bit, and they rode a camel. Now the camel is called ships of the desert. They're very wise animals. They move swiftly on the desert. Great vision, etc. And they're smart, they're intelligent, because they know there's not much water on the desert, so they store it. So you ride the camel across the desert. Across the sand, the instability. Meaning what? That you should ride your passions or whatever intelligently. That you should deal with passionate situations with intelligence. Not to get so hyped up the minute somebody calls your name or the minute something don't go your way. To check the passion with intelligence. Intelligence helps you get from one place to another. And they ride it to a certain point, then they tie it to a tree and walk the rest of the way, according to that. In closing, let me say that the African American interest into the Islamic order really began in the military. was a man called Prince Hall. He and about 14 others was initiated into a lodge in Boston, part of the military. Around March 6, 1775. But he was not satisfied to just be in the Masonic lodge. He wanted independence. He wanted independence. Now, the Europeans considered him, maybe consider him now clandestine, didn't recognize him. But he wanted independence. He wanted independent lodges for the black African Americans. He was from Barbados, I believe. He wanted independence. So he wrote to England and received the charter, I believe, about 9 things. But he wrote to England, to the Grand Lodge of England, and then reported that they gave him the charter. But the key is this. He wrote to England for the charter, but the name of his first lodge was African Lodge, number 459. Not Negro Lodge, not Colored Lodge, not even Black Lodge. This is in the 1700s. He called it African Lodge, which lets you know that he still has some awareness of his culture, of his heritage. That he was not afraid then to refer to himself in his lodge as African Lodge. You know, we wouldn't call ourselves African. The way the picture they painted us, we wouldn't dare associate with that. We was being called colored and other things. But African Lodge, which was a clue. Say, look to Africa. Have pride in your culture. We should have pride in our heritage. Always. Always have pride in our heritage. Study our heritage. We have a rich heritage in Africa. And some of the richest heritage is Islamic empire, Islamic heritage. There's others, but some of your greatest was Islamic heritage in Africa. So although there's many things I don't agree with in the Masonic lodge, etc., I have to admit that Prince Hall had the courage and gave a clue. He said African Lodge. That was courageous. Now, the Islamic destiny. The Islamic destiny. Brothers and sisters, know as I open up that El-Islam, Muslims do not seek to dominate the world, to dominate people and force our religion on no one, to make you accept our religion. It's not no accepting and live, rejected and die. We are not enemies inherently to Christians or Jews. Under certain circumstances, according to the teachings of our holy book of Quran, if the house of worship of other people, they are attacked simply because they are Christians, or simply because they are Jewish faith, practice Judaism. Simply for that reason, then we too, as Muslims, are obligated to stand up and to defend their rights. So the Islamic destiny is to bring about a cohesive society where men and women and people of different faiths and religions could live together in harmony and in togetherness, and yes, compete for all that is good, righteously compete. So with that, I'd like to close out saying thank you for your attention, and I hope that you was able to receive something from what we had to say. And I greet you in peace, and hopefully we're open for questions. If you have any, peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. For any knowledge that you can share with me on that, and with the audience. But I'm not sure of the symbol behind directly related. We know, I didn't have time to to go into a whole lot of things specifically. When you get into the mathematics, you get into the geometry, and you get into all of the sciences, the different types of geometry and the liberal arts, etc. And the actual things that go into building and mathematics. I mean, I didn't have the time to really go into all of that. However, I don't claim to know all of it either.
This means a number, 3.14.
Right, and there's another number also.
22 2207.
2207.
This is how you'll find a circumference for the earth.
Okay. But Freemasonry meant fire or light. It really meant son of light or son of the devil. But in the old teachings of the Nation of Islam, we have some lessons on Masonry. And those teachings were designed to instill a sense of confidence and superiority to pull us up from our low state. So we identified the white man as the Mason, and that's what he called himself, the Mason, the wise one, right? So to increase our superiority, we said, well, you only have 33 degrees. He's really your son. You have 360 degrees. The black man has 360 degrees. So the white man is not wiser than you. He's your son. You are the one who taught him. You're the one who raised him up out of yours from a dead level to a living perpendicular. And you didn't give him the whole 360 degrees. You gave him 33 degrees, which is only a degree above freezing. So he's really cold. He's a cold gentleman, 32 degrees, you start going out. So you say, that white man's cold, brother. Some of them cold hills in Europe, So it's kind of traced back to that. When you hear the term Mount Sun, it's a whole lot.